Now, in a recent decision, the Constitutional Court overturned an earlier decision that had deemed 2 statutes controlling the new Aarto system to be unlawful and in violation of the Constitution. Now, the action was brought forward by the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. The ConCourt found that the new administrative adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act system for handling traffic infringements, incorporating a demerit system for reckless drivers, was in fact valid and constitutional. The Road Traffic Infringement Agency will now assess the current plans, change the implementation schedule as needed, and get ready to roll out the system gradually. For more on the implementation phase and timelines, we speak to Road Traffic Infringement Agency spokesperson Monde Mkalipi. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
What is your reaction, to this outcome?
Well, as the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, we really welcome the ruling, and it really confirms the understanding that we have that Aarto is indeed a critical vehicle when it comes to curbing fatalities on our roads. And it really means that now, as you have rightly pointed out in your introduction, that we need to go into the drawing board and revisit our plans and roll out Aarto. And that means, in terms of the planning that we had before, there are certain critical steps that we needed to undertake prior to the actual rollout. And one of those was to make sure that there's sufficient capacity that has been created on the ground. And that includes assessing our municipalities, having a clear understanding with our partners that we are really ready for the rollout. And that assessment also setting up outlets throughout the country so that road users can be able to access Aarto. And perhaps very important is to run a public education drive around this particular piece of legislation, because it contains a lot of benefits to the road users. So that is where we are right now. But there are also other steps now that are perhaps very, very urgent that we are looking at. With the interface that we have with the Department of Transport, we are at a stage where perhaps we need to advance for the proclamation of this legislation. That is gazetting of the implementation date. That information is going to emerge with the interaction that the Department of Transport is having with the Presidency, so that we know exactly when this legislation comes into effect in the whole country. So that is exactly where we are at now. As partners, we are regrouping to say this is the plan that we had, and now that everything has been cleared by the Constitutional Court, because we had a phased-in approach before. Now that everything has been cleared, we are going to make an assessment. Are we still going for the phased-in approach, or we are going for a one big bang approach in terms of the rollout of Aarto? Because this legislation is going to affect all municipalities in the country. Initially, we spoke of rolling out through, starting maybe with 67 municipalities, and maybe moving on to another 144. But now we are going to regroup as partners and say, what is it that we need to do perhaps in the next 12 months? And
just perhaps looking at what the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse had said, they had said that one of the gripes with this is that they believe that it will be merely impossible for the government to implement the system. I mean, what do you say to such a remark, especially looking at the many layers that you're making reference to?
No, they are completely wrong. I mean, they don't have sufficient information on this matter, because the Road Traffic Infringement Agency has piloted Aarto in the 2 jurisdictions, which is Tshwane and Johannesburg. And we have been able to derive a lot of useful lessons out of that. And it is those lessons that have taken us to where we are now, in terms of saying now we are ready to roll out Aarto. We have implemented the adjudication aspect of the legislation, where road users are exposed to the actual benefits of Aarto in terms of the elective options. So many road users have taken advantage of these benefits that they have of Aarto. One, road users, for example, if they are able to go and resolve their infringements within 12 months, within 32 days, they are able to get that 50% discount. And again, road users are able to submit representations and dispute infringements and submit the necessary evidence to propose for the cancellation of their infringements. And again, road users are able to nominate drivers if perhaps they were not in control of their vehicles, especially those road users, those operators who have got fleets of vehicles, they have been able to take advantage of that particular option. And those who can't afford perhaps big sums of funds that have been meted against them, they are able to make proposals to pay those fines in installments. So these are the benefits that road users have taken advantage of when we are piloting the system in Tshwane and in Johannesburg.
But of course there's a lot of nervousness, especially when it comes to perhaps what may lead to one having their suspension and cancellation of their driver's licenses. Talk to us about the Demerit system and how it will effectively work, because there are some nervous drivers out there wondering what could possibly happen should they have infringements on the road and so forth.
Yes, our point of departure when we are sending messages around the points demerit system is that any law-abiding road user should not be afraid of the points demerit system, because the system actually is going to start at zero. All road users in South Africa. It means it's only when one commits an infringement that you will be accumulating demerit points. So in terms of how it is mooted right now, we're talking about a threshold of 15 demerit points. So if perhaps one commits infringements, let's say you are driving a faulty vehicle, and then let's say your license has expired, and then you get a ticket, and then you get fined 1,500, for example, and then upon admission of that guilt, and then you are given, let's say, 4 demerit points. If you drive well, if it was an honest mistake, those demerit points are going to decline, because every 3 months that you drive well on the road without committing any infringements, those demerit points get deducted one by one every 3 months. But if you commit infringements and then until you reach the threshold of 15, in the first instance, your driving license is going to be suspended. You are taken off the road for a period of 3 months. And then perhaps after 3 months, you are allowed to drive back. And then let's say you drive well for a period of, let's say, 6 months, 3 months, and then some of the demerit points get to be deducted. Let's say you are at 12. And then perhaps you commit other infringements, and then you reach the threshold of 15 now for the second time, and then your driving license is suspended. If your driving is suspended again, but if you commit infringements and then you reach the threshold, you exceed the 15 points for the third time, your driving license now is going to be cancelled. It means that particular infringer is taken off completely from our roads. It is going to be expected to go and restart the whole process of learners and being exposed and being taught why it's important to drive safely on the roads. So in the whole system, we're also intending to bring in a rehabilitation program, because it's important that road users are taken through the system where they get exposed on the dangers of bad driving. And then it should not be mean that road drivers, because some of the people are breadwinners, we can't have their driving license being taken or cancelled for good. There should be an effort to really assist them to go back into the system. So this is how the system is going to work at the end of the day. So it is being refined now as we speak through our regulations, and we intend to roll it out. And as we have said earlier on, that it's a system that is really intended to deal with the habitual infringers, people who are really a problem on our roads. Because if by mistake you commit an infringement, then you get 3 demerit points. If you are a law-abiding road user, you can be able to work your way back and have all those points removed against your name.
So, I mean, look, you make mention of something that one hasn't done in years, of course, going back to write your learners and starting from scratch, which in itself is a pain because of the corruption that is involved there. Is your system designed to ensure that, corruption doesn't filter in? Because if you talk about trying to secure a license in South Africa, I mean, good luck, because of so many challenges when it comes to the processes and the elements of corruption. Yes,
Paul, Aarto is designed to be a very, very watertight system. We're working with a number of partners, including the Road Traffic Management Corporation, with the training of traffic officers. As part of capacity building, we'll be bringing them on board so that that element of the perceived corruption that is there, it gets to be eradicated from the beginning. So all the elements in terms of saying what happens when you are issued with an infringement on the road, because the intention when we roll out Aarto is to factor in the gadgets that are going to be utilized by some of our officers, so that an infringement is captured right on the spot, the infringer also signs on the spot, and then it gets to be fed to the National Contravention Register through an electronic gadget. So the intention is that there should not be any gap for corruption in that, because Aarto is going to be a very highly automated system. It moves from the roadside, it goes to the National Contravention Register. Within 32 days, you have that option of paying the 50% discount, and then if you fail to pay that 50% discount within 32 days, and then it moves on to the courtesy letter stage, whereas the RTIA, we're going to send you a reminder to say you committed an infringement. But if you really also fail to respond to the courtesy letter, it means now there's going to be another second 32 days, which builds up to 64 days.
Yeah.
After 64 days, there's going to be an enforcement order that is going to be put against the particular infringer. And it means the person is going to be blocked now from doing any transactions on the system. The person might want to come and renew the license disc, or coming to renew the driving license. That person will be blocked up until that particular infringement has been cleared on the system.
Very well. Perhaps we're going to have to leave it there for the sake of time. But yeah, thank you very much. Of course, a lot to consider, a lot to take in, a lot to learn. I mean, those drives that you have across the country will be very important in really educating the driver, because there really are a lot of layers to this outcome. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you to the viewers.
Speaking to Road Traffic Infringement Agency spokesperson Monde Mkalipi.